high school special education teacher, and I am currently in the EdTech specialist program at SUNY Potsdam. With me, I have Boas Bäckström, who works at Gameplan. He has worked there for about 5 years. He started off as a community manager, went on to be a junior account manager, and now he is a scholastic account specialist there. As a community manager, he worked a lot in content creation, so kind of working in creating courses for Game Plan, and now he's transitioned more into the marketing side and working on customers' access to this platform, which we're going to get into today. And he has also worked in the esports team organizing tournaments, streaming games on Twitch, and managing tournament attendees. So welcome, Boas. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so I'm really excited to get into this. So, esports and gaming has been an interest of mine for a very long time.
Mm.
I'm assuming same with you if you're in this
Yep, same
field.
with me.
So, to start off, just to kind of get to know you, Boas, what made you interested in the esports and gaming industry? What kind of got you into it?
Yep, that's a good question. I guess I've always been a big enthusiast when it comes to games and just playing games. I grew up playing a lot of games like League of Legends, Counter-Strike, and stuff like that. That was like when I was in middle school. It was like a lot of hours just playing games. And then I started getting into more, I guess, doing some Twitch streaming, but also recording videos. Like I started enjoying a lot just recording when we played, like me and my friends, and just editing it. So kind of video editing became a big interest of mine as well. So that's really just how it all kind of started, I guess. And that was like my first way into the industry as well, just having that background from just enjoying to play games and just enjoying to make videos out of it. That's really how I got into game plan in the beginning, just from that kind of interest.
So, to follow up on that, you mentioned that you were big into Counter Strike and League of Legends. So,
Yep.
were you big into watching the tournaments that were going on with those games, or were you more into just kind of playing them and making videos? Like, were you watching the League of Legends
Yeah.
finals and championships?
A bit of both. I definitely say more towards the playing side, but I did enjoy watching as well. Yeah, it was definitely fun seeing the pro players and that whole scene as well. It feels like, yeah, I have good memories from just the players back then and all the big names. So yeah, definitely a bit of both.
So, I definitely say I have a very similar, similar experience to kind of getting into
Yeah.
video games. So, I think
Yep.
the first game I really ever like loved was Skyrim. It
Mm.
was
Yep.
I could still go back to that game. And then esports wise,
Yep.
the first games I started really getting into and watching, I think the first esport event I ever watched was the original Rainbow Six Siege Invitational,
Mm.
and I
Yep.
thought it was the coolest thing ever that video games were starting to get like that big, and
Yeah.
this many people are watching a gaming tournament. I thought it was awesome.
Yep. Did
So
you play a lot of Rainbow too, or?
yes,
Yeah.
that was a big phase of my life. I also played sports in high school around this time, and I broke my wrist at a
Mm.
wrestling tournament. So
Yep.
that was right at the start of the summer, and I couldn't really do much all summer except for play Rainbow Six. So
Yeah.
a lot of my summer vacation was spent that year playing Rainbow Six, and I think that was the first
Yeah.
game where I really started getting into like semi-competitive multiplayer, and then
Right.
um,
Yeah. Yeah.
recently I've really been into Valorant and watching Valorant, and
Mm.
um,
Yep.
it's it's crazy how big it's gotten. So that kind of
Yep.
answers how you got involved into the industry. So how did that translate? Like, what's your story from just starting off as a gamer, some kind of
Mm.
content creation, to getting enough expertise and experience to get to work at Game Plan?
Mm. Like how I got into game plan and so on.
Yes.
Like, yeah. So when I was in high school, so I'm based in Sweden, by the way, and I live in Sweden. And like the way it works in high school is that you like select a program that you want to go to, like a profession. So I selected to be an electrician. So I actually have no, I guess, real studies or like any education to back me in where I am right now. But it was my oldest brother. He wrote his thesis like on Gameplan and with them about like how they could improve their platform, and he started there in around 2019, and they after he started, they just needed someone to edit videos. Like they didn't have anyone that could edit videos. And I guess my level of video editing was very basic, but I could. Like I at least knew how to do it. So that's kind of where it got started. He just asked me if I wanted to do some extra work while I was in high school. And I mean, yeah, it was an easy question to answer. Like always being a gamer and then being asked if you can join a gaming company or like an esports company, it was a definite yes. So like that's really how it got started, and then from there it's just I guess the things that I've been doing is just kind of escalated, and yeah, just I guess where my interest is at as well. So yeah, I'm definitely a person that likes to jump around and do a bit of everything. So in the beginning, it was like you mentioned as well, like community management and running tournaments and so on, for in mostly our Swedish schools. So yeah, just running tournaments for them and making them excited about being a part of this, I guess, community. So that's yeah, that's kind of how I got into Gameplan as well, and then from there it's just been it's just been rolling.
Yeah, I'm gonna come back to what you said about liking to be kind of involved in a lot of different things because I feel like that's one of the things that kind of got me into gaming.
Mm,
I always did three sports and I was always
mm,
so into gaming and had a I just always have a ton of different interests and I want to know a lot about a lot of different stuff. So
mm,
I think that's one of the cool opportunities for students that have
mm,
platforms like Gameplan, which once again we're going to get into,
yeah,
that they have that option to find an interest they like,
mm,
and I think it's
yeah.
great.
It's definitely a big industry. It is like there's a lot of things that you can do. It's just about I guess getting in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you were in middle school playing League and Counter Strike, did you expect esports and gaming to grow to what it is today? Or is it kind of taking you by surprise how big it's gotten and how many employment opportunities it has and just this
Mm.
industry that it's become?
That's a very good question. I've actually never thought about it, I guess, from the perspective that I was in back then as well. Because it feels like when I was in middle school, it felt really big.
Yeah.
Like just watching the professional scene, it felt really, really big. And it still does, obviously. Like it's grown a lot. But I guess I would have to say no. Like I wouldn't expect it. Like it's bigger than yeah, I could have expected. It's yeah, because when I'm thinking back to the scene back then, it was very small. I guess the all the finals were the space were very limited and stuff like that. But now it's huge. So yeah, I don't think anyone could have anticipated what was coming.
Yeah, I think I kind of expected it to get bigger on
Mm,
a like streaming level and viewership,
right.
but one thing that we're about to transition to that I wouldn't have expected is how much it is incorporated in schools now and how big it's
Mm,
gotten in schools. I did not expect
yep.
college esports to get so big
Mm,
and universities to have majors that
mm,
relate to esports and schools to have
mm,
esports clubs and a platform like Gameplan.
right.
So
Yeah.
transitioning into it, I want you to
Yeah.
kind of explain to everybody kind of what is Gameplan. Just
Yeah.
general sales pitch. What is Gameplan?
Right. Yep. So I guess Gameplan in general is a learning platform, and we're focusing a lot on just helping teachers teach teach regular subjects through the lens of esports. So it's all about making the learning fun for the students and engaging. Because obviously since COVID, a lot of schools have struggled a lot with just getting the kids back into school. Like the attendance rate has like, yeah, schools are struggling. So often the students who don't come to school, they rather just stay home and play games. So when you can offer them something to like come to school and be a part of the esports program and then teach them subjects that are really, really important, I mean, there you have something. So what we do is essentially deliver courses and CTE courses, so focusing on the career side to schools because it's often very difficult to create that content. It's a very new industry for most teachers as well. So like having to build lesson plans and stuff like that, it can take a lot of time, and that's where we're trying to help the teachers by, yeah, delivering, I guess, the foundation of the lesson plan to them, so that they get everything they need to run an esports program. So yeah, that's, I guess, in essence what we do, and it's all delivered through the platform Gameplan that we built, and we started back in 2016, and for like 5-6 years we only spent time on actually building the platform. So it's been a lot of development hours behind it. But yeah, hope that answers the question a bit.
Yes. So these courses, are they integrated into like, say, a business class, or are they like an elective course that a student would take during the year?
Mm, yep. So I guess first of all, it's for like we mainly target middle school and high school right now. Like that's the age groups that we target. But also, I guess we have colleges using the same courses as high school. It kind of depends on what level that you're putting it on. But it's mainly integrated as elective classes and for CTE programs, so like the career technical education.
Mhm.
So I know a lot of schools they integrate it into like IT and like development and computer science stuff like that. Another big side is the media, because the media cluster in the CTE standards, that's something that we, I guess, target a lot. And a big part of that is like game design, so building games through tools like Unreal Engine, but also media production in general. So yeah, editing videos and stuff like that I did when I was younger, but graphic design and stuff like that too. So I guess that's kind of where we're focusing.
So one question that I know I would get if I were to go to a staff meeting and say, guys, look at this cool platform. This it's talking about
Mm.
gaming and esports in schools. One of the things that an administrator or a teacher would say is, what kind of credits do students get with this towards graduation? Is it same as any other
Mm.
elective?
Yeah, so our courses is targeted for half a credit or 1 credit. And right now we have like 4, 5 different courses. So there's a lot to it, and it's definitely meant to make the students grow. I know a couple of years ago we were more interested, or we were targeting more on the like the after school side. But for schools to integrate this as an after school program, it's a lot more difficult because there is a lot less funding. I guess that's, yeah, it's a lot less funding for the after school programs. But when you go to the elective classes and CTE programs, for the schools, they can, yeah, pick from or choose from a lot of other funding buckets. And that's part of the reason too, why we've kind of focused on that as well, because it's easier for the schools to integrate it, and it's a lot more beneficial for the students because they get really good education or like quality education from these programs rather than an after school where it might be more focused on just playing games. And no, I'm going off the question, but I feel like this is important
We'll
as well.
definitely come back to
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
So yeah, because I know that would be a big barrier for a lot of schools. Is
Right,
this sounds great. I think our students would love this, but how are we going to get the funding for it? How are we going to
right.
actually make it happen?
Yeah,
So that's a nice piece of information that the funding for it in an elective class is
yep,
different than after school. But yeah, we're going to get back to that, kind
yeah.
of the elective versus after school. So
Mm.
what are some examples of courses that you would find if
Mm.
you had Gameplan? What courses would these students be learning about on this platform?
Yep. So I guess three big ones are cybersecurity, media production, and game design. That's our three biggest right now, and all of them like hit industry standard or like industry standards, but also certificates as well. So like, we have a collaboration with Epic Games. So right now we're working on like a certification together with them for Unreal Engine courses because that's the tool that we use for the game design part. But also media production and cybersecurity hits the IAC Square certificate and that certification. So yeah, I guess those are the three larger courses that we have that goes more into a pathway. But then we also focus on, I guess, the exploration side. So before going into, let's say, game design path, then having the kind of exploration course as well, where students get introduced to a lot of different courses. Like they do a short unit in game design and they do a short one in cyber and a short one in media, just for them to see, okay, what do I like the most? Like, where do I want to go in the future? I feel like that's also very important. Yeah.
And kind of thinking with students like developing games on Unreal Engine, the transferable skills with that would be, I think, really beneficial for a student. Say a student wants to go into software development or
Yep.
something like that, just learning that coding, learning
Yep.
kind of how to be creative with that. I think that's
Mm.
uh, one thing that you kind of work in this field, it develops a lot of traits for other fields. So
Yep.
with that, what kind of skills do you think that these courses, and actually I'm going to backtrack. So
Yeah.
with these three main courses you mentioned, how much of that involves like students actually like playing a game or students kind of looking
Mm.
into a game? How much is that integrated into any of those courses?
Yep, that's a good question. Like a lot of the courses that we built, we focused on it being very like project based and very hands-on. So students actually doing something. I guess the essence of our lessons is really just like in the beginning you have some theory, so just learning about what you're going to do. Like if it's game design, for example, like trying to think of an example, but how do you build collision detection in Unreal Engine? Like how does that work? So you can actually interact with objects, and then they would go into Unreal Engine and actually do it. And obviously we have all the instructions and videos, like custom made videos for that as well, and just showing them how to do everything. And then towards the end, more like reflection. So a lot of it is like hands-on and them doing things. And when it comes to actually playing games, that's a lot up to the schools, I'd say, because we have, I guess, areas where they can easily take our gaming content as well, like more focus on the game itself and just integrate it into their calendar. So, for example, if they want to do one lesson in Unreal Engine and then end the lesson with something in Rocket League or a lesson in Rocket League, I guess they can very easily pull that from our library as well, because we built a lot of content around like responsible play. So when you're playing, you should actually be learning something. So focusing on teamwork or leadership, like the communication side, stuff like that, and through a lot of different scenarios, but would be, I guess, custom made in the game. So yeah, but that's more up to the schools how they want to integrate it, because some schools they want to focus 100% on I guess the career. So like actually just building games, but some also wants to integrate more games and so on. So we leave that very much open for the schools as well.
So there's flexibility with how much they want to integrate that.
Yep.
So yeah, I was gonna mention with these with playing these games, some of the transferable skills that students can learn.
Mm.
What do you see as some of those skills? You kind of just mentioned some of them, but
Yeah. Yeah. I'd say communication being a big part. We actually had a conversation with a teacher, I think it was 2 weeks ago, and he was talking about because they used a lot of Minecraft education in their class, and he talked about like two students who had never, like they never spoke before, like not to each other or not to anyone else, But when they started playing Minecraft Education together, they would actually talk. Like before the lesson even started, they would just brainstorm on what they would do today in the world and like stuff like that. Just really talking to each other. And I've seen that many times before too. There's one, I guess, like the first school that we started working with here in Sweden. We saw the exact same thing. Like there were students in the program who would never speak to anyone like, ever. But then when they were in a game playing like League of Legends, for example, they were the in-game leader and just talking to everyone else and just making sure that they all like succeeded. So that's something that I find very, very amazing, like the community side and the communication, like the students just finding new friends through these programs because they have something in common. So yeah, that's one big, but obviously there are a lot of transferable skills, like I mentioned, teamwork and stuff like that, and leadership. But yeah, there's a lot that they can take from being a part of a program like this.
Yeah, one thing I have picked up from gaming for so long and
Mm,
following esports is it is a very real skill to be able to get out a lot of information in very few words. And
yep.
you watch like a rerun of a Valorant tournament from a team
Mm,
posted on YouTube and they have their communication on the audio and you hear how much they're saying throughout the game. It
yeah.
it's very real how much you need to communicate when you're in a fast-paced environment like that.
Yep.
Um and
Um,
and I think a
yeah. There's not
lot
a lot of time to.
and I think
Sorry. Go ahead.
a lot of stuff that students are going to experience are kind of when they get into work or get into higher ed is really fast
Yep.
paced. So you gotta know how to manage that and be
Mm,
efficient.
yep. Yeah, and like like decision making as well. Like you have less than a second to make a decision, and you just have to do it. Obviously, you fail sometimes, but that's a part of the learning process. And I'd mention one thing too, like from my personal story. A big reason why I guess feel comfortable speaking English, even because we don't speak English in Sweden. Like in Sweden, we have our own language, but it's because of games, like just playing games and being part of that. Because when you play League of Legends and like, you don't type in Swedish because you rarely play with the Swedish folks. You play with people across the world. So just yeah, being put out to have to speak English, that helped me a lot. And I can see from some of my friends who didn't play that much games, they're not as, I guess, comfortable with English. Many of them, of course, there are some that just are good at it anyways, but it definitely helped a lot.
That's really cool. That's an awesome story. So yeah, you mentioned the Minecraft partnership. I
Yep.
I went and did some brief homework on Gameplan before this. I looked at your website and that jumped out to me like crazy. I saw
Mm,
a Minecraft partnership with Microsoft and I briefly looked
yep.
at it, but I want you to tell me about the new Minecraft partnership
Mm,
that Gameplan has and how is that going? How is that going in the schools? Has it been
yep.
implemented yet? That kind of stuff.
It has been like starting to be implemented, but essentially what we're doing is that we're building a course for middle schools together with Minecraft education. So it's an like a career exploration course for middle schoolers. So the first the course is contained by 5 units, and the first three is just building mini games in Minecraft education. So yeah, obviously there's a lot of more gameplay then because they would learn something and then they will hop into Minecraft Education and actually do it and play it. So the first unit is like them practicing game design and what is good games versus bad games, building their own parkour maps and just like exploring like how do you make a map that is not boring, it's challenging, but it's not too challenging, like stuff like that. And obviously this is middle schoolers, so it's very good for them to just get an understanding, a very basic understanding for what it is. And Minecraft Education is a great tool to do that because it's kids love it. I think that speaks for itself. I was also a big Minecraft fan when I was younger too. So it's a very good learning tool. But then the course moves on to them doing some basic game design or game development using code blocks and stuff like that in Minecraft education, and then doing some marketing. So the games that they've built, they'll actually market them, and then that leading up to Unit 5, where they organize a tournament with their games. So the whole unit is about like them building games, market it, and then organizing a tournament. And that's really up to the schools how big it should be. They can just do it within their class, or they could do it for the entire state if they wanted to. Obviously, I don't think many schools would do that, but I think most of them would do it in the class. But it's a very nice or a cool journey for the students to really just build everything themselves. So that's kind of what we're building together with Minecraft Education, and we already have a few schools that started to implement it. But the main goal is for, I guess, next school year, so August, September, for schools to really start using it.
So it kind of sounds like project-based learning using Minecraft.
Yep,
That's
exactly.
that's awesome. One thing that we discussed this week in our emerging learning technologies, that's the class that this is for, is New York just rolled out this year digital fluency standards for students, and one of those is cybersecurity, um, digital literacy. All of these kind of, it seems like basically these are standards that every teacher should be embedding into their class. So everyone should be teaching students how to be fluent with this technology, because it's not going away. They're gonna need to know how to use it when they get out of high school. And it sounds like these courses in Gameplan align a lot with those digital fluency standards, and just taking a few courses for that would kind of teach a lot of those. So
Yeah. And
you,
to add into that as well, I guess thinking of it from the teacher's perspective as well, like having to teach all of that,
yeah,
like if you're not comfortable with the tools yourself, because a lot of this is new, so it's very difficult to be a teacher and then having to teach something completely new that you haven't had a time or a chance to get comfortable with. That's where a lot of the teachers that we work with are happy that we have the content that we have, because it takes a lot of their chests having to build everything from scratch. But obviously, everything that we create, they can just go in and make any changes that they want to. Like it's completely their version, and they can do whatever they want with it. But still, like having that foundation. So yeah, it makes it easier for the teachers to go in and teach these tools to the students, because that's often a very big barrier for a lot of teachers.
yeah, because I mean, gaming and esports for, I won't say a lot, but for probably a good amount of teachers is not very not very present in their lives. Like
Right,
maybe their kids play video games, but
right,
for maybe the majority of educators, they might see
yeah,
this and not know that they're going to have courses that are pretty much given to
right,
them that guide them through it, and say, I don't really know how I could teach this. I don't know how I could teach game
right,
development. Um,
right.
yeah, so
Yeah. But one thing that a lot of educators do see is, like, for example, like you mentioned, if they have kids playing games, they see what happens with the kids when they play games. Like the kids are hooked. There is something there, and if you can use that to educate them, like there you have something. That's a very good way of, yeah, making students learn. Like it's the new education system, basically.
I'm going to reverse that and say some of the bad things parents might see when they see their kids playing
Yep.
video games. Say they lose and they throw a controller.
Right.
Maybe implementing game plan or scholastic
Mm.
gaming or scholastic esports, they can kind of learn how to control those emotions,
Yep.
and to learn how to lose.
Yeah. Absolutely. And there's always downsides with everything. And I think a lot of, like, something a lot of people see too is like the screen time, like being in front of a
Mm-hmm.
screen. But yeah, there are ups and downs with everything, and plus and minuses. But like you say, if you get tilted, and that's like,
Mm-hmm.
if you play a traditional sport, like you get tilted too. Like, but then you have to learn, like you say, how to control that for the better. But also, yeah, with screen time and so on, it's just about being responsible and not, I guess, sitting for hours and hours and hours and hours, because I guess going out and actually taking breaks and stuff is also very important. But there are a lot of benefits with, like, for kids to be a part of this, and when you make it more educational, then at least in my opinion, it feels like the screen time is more, looking for the right word, but like justified
Yeah.
when they're actually learning something valuable. Like, yeah,
Yeah, and to the screen time, a lot of jobs now, say a 9 to 5, you might be
yeah,
staring at a screen from 9 to when you
yep,
take your lunch to the end of your
yep,
lunch to 5. And I think
yep,
it might sound weird, but it's important to know how to do that and stay healthy. How
yeah,
to
yeah,
how to sit up straight, how to make sure you're having proper nutrition, how to take care of your body when you're not sitting and looking at a screen.
yeah,
We had
yeah,
a conversation with a former professional esports player in our class, and he mentioned that, like, how to sit up straight, how to make sure that
yep,
you're not destroying your back from staring at a screen.
mm,
And it's kind of soft skills, and
yep,
it's it's kind of with the expectation that you're
yeah,
gonna learn how to take these breaks, you're gonna learn how to do this healthily. But
mm,
these courses seem like they prepare students for something and these courses and gaming in
mm,
general prepare these students for what
yep,
the world has turned into, which is a lot of screens.
yep, yeah, yep, exactly. And to what you touched on earlier, like, it's not a, like, I feel like a lot of people, they only see like the esports industry. So when you take a course like this, then you're limited to the esports industry. But what you mentioned in the beginning, like, that's not really the case, because if you learn Unreal Engine, as an example, you can do a lot more. I'm
Yeah.
not sure how much you've seen of it, but like a lot of like filmmaking, like making films is done through Unreal Engine. Mandalorian is a great example of that, where they just used LED screens instead of green screens, and the entire environment was built in Unreal Engine. So I guess for students, when they learn a tool like Unreal Engine to build games, they could go and work at a movie company and create the worlds for the entire series or the movie. I know Barbie is also, like, when they were driving the car to the real world. I'm not sure if you've seen the movie, but
I
that was
have.
also, yeah, that was also built in Unreal Engine. So like, it's very transferable into other industries as well, and that's what I like about it too. Like, if our kids that use our courses, they don't have to work within the esports industry, just as long as they make something of their lives,
Yeah.
and get somewhere.
um yeah, so I'm gonna kind of transition into back what you said earlier about the in school elective courses, or CT elective courses, BOCES elective courses, versus after school programs. So
Mm,
one thing I always make sure that I get this out in discussions or whatever, is how much extracurriculars can benefit students and how much
mm,
being involved in stuff can benefit students.
mm,
And one thing I know with esports is, say, an after school esports club, um, a lot of students that might not be physically able to play football or wrestle or play basketball can get involved in something that
mm,
they otherwise wouldn't be involved in. So, over to
mm,
the extracurricular side, how have you seen extracurricular esports kind of be beneficial?
mm. Yep, that's also a good question. I know a lot of studies have been done, like, who participates in esports extracurriculars, and what's in the majority of times has been seen is that around like 70, 80, but even up to 90% of the kids that participate like participated in the esports extracurricular had never participated in any other extracurricular before. And I think that says something just to what you said as well. Like the kids who normally they don't go to football or they don't go to basketball or like band or like the music classes or like those extracurriculars, they just go home. Like they don't do anything. Like they don't have that connection like other kids does, and that kind of community feeling of being a part of something. So when the esports program comes around, they actually have a space. They have somewhere that they can go to, and I think that in itself is massive. That is really, really big just for those students to actually have a place to belong. So yeah, I think that's one very big upside with
Yeah.
esports extracurriculars, like just giving the students that opportunity to be a part of something.
Yeah, and one thing that I think is, so I think there's definitely benefits to extracurriculars and benefits to in school. One thing that came to my mind is I played football, I did wrestling, I
Mm,
did baseball. If I was also huge into esports because, like you
mm,
mentioned earlier, you like to do a little bit of everything.
yep.
That was me in high school. I don't know how I would have been able to do an after school esports
Mm,
extracurricular in high school because I know I wouldn't have given up one of those sports. So
yep.
having an elective course or an in-school course like a
Mm,
gaming related or esports related where the
mm,
culminating project is a tournament or a live stream, like that would
mm,
have given someone like me an opportunity to kind of
right.
get a taste of the esports aspect of school while still
Mm,
doing the other things I enjoyed. So overall,
yeah.
what you can go in depth for budgeting, you can go in depth for what you've seen. What do you think are some of the pros and cons, or not pros and cons? What
Mm,
are, like, if you were to weigh extracurricular esports versus elective courses
mm,
on gaming and esports, how would you kind of
mm.
weigh those out against each other?
That's a good question. I feel in general, I would lean towards like elective courses having a larger impact, and partly because it's often easier to integrate as well when it comes to funding and so on, but also that it often focuses a lot on the educational side, like really teaching career skills. And I personally find that very, very important. Um, but then, like to say extracurricular, that community side, and to what you mentioned as well, like uh, being a football player or a basketball player, um, I know one thing I've seen is those kids, like the football players, they don't normally interact with the people that would go to an esports program. But if you, for example, were to go to the esports program, like I can promise you that you would become very close friends
Mm-hmm.
with like the other kids. So that side as well, like all of the kids, just everyone are just now being friends. Because yeah, you have something that like you all have something in common. Even if you're a football player, a basketball player, or nothing, like you'd rather just play games. You now have something in common, and I think that's very important as well for like the entire school as a community, just bringing everyone together. Obviously, not everyone, but a lot of the
Yeah.
kids. Yeah. Um, both are definitely important, and I know for a lot of schools that we work with, um, integrating esports as an elective or as an extracurricular can be easier because you don't have to focus on the standards or like the educational side. Like the barrier to get started is lower, but then there is less funding to it and so on. But it often grows into an elective program because you teachers often want to teach their kids more. They want to touch on the Unreal Engine courses and the media and cyber and so on, and then it makes sense to connect it to an elective. So that's like a path that I've seen a lot from the schools take as well. Like start as an extracurricular, but then go into an elective in 1, 2, 3 years, depending on the school and like what options they have.
Yeah, you kind of mentioned how you kind of touched on this earlier, how some kids and teachers might want to get exposed to this Unreal Engine. Um, One thing that I think is really important for schools is to make sure that their students have had exposure to a number of different industries. They kind of
Mm,
have an idea of what it would be like if they went into engineering. They have an idea of what it would
mm,
be like to go into education or the medical field or software
yeah.
or stuff like that. So, what are these courses? What are these learning courses? What are some of the industries that they kind of expose students to, like esports wise? You
Mm,
mentioned movie making. What are
mm,
some of the industries that these courses can allow students
mm.
exposure to and experience to?
Yep. A big one, definitely game design, like game development in general, and all of the roles within that. But I'd also say like the entrepreneurship side, because in like our exploration courses, for example, one part is for students to build their own esports team. So like that kind of entrepreneurship side and getting them to think along those lines. And that, I guess, could be any industry, depending on what they want to do. It could be creating an esports team, but it could be a completely different company. Um, so yeah, like those two are definitely big. But then media production, like creating videos, journalism as well. One thing we focus on is, I guess, the speaking class. So kids that normally don't like, who likes going into like the front of the class and have a speech. Like I don't think a lot of kids enjoy that. I can speak for myself. I didn't. Took quite some time before I actually enjoyed speaking in front of people. Um, but then instead of doing that, putting the kid in front of a camera and tell them to run a stream while the class is watching, or like they'll watch afterwards or something like that, and they'll talk for hours. Like they'll run a complete show, doing the exact same thing, like speaking in front of people and so on, but it's not in front of the classroom, which of course has its benefits, but it's a very good way to get the kids into that. And then like yeah, there you have the journalism side, like being a journalist and I guess a public speaker in a way. And then IT in general, just the cyber side. I think a lot of students or kids that are interested in playing games um, often get into like development and coding and that side as well, to just build their own stuff. So that's, I guess, some of the industries that you can get into, but I feel like you can get into anything as long as you want it. That's
Yeah.
just as long as you have an interest for it, then you can definitely do anything.
Yeah, I mean your story's a first-hand account of that, as
Yeah,
you were really into video editing and gaming and you got into
yeah,
Gameplan. That's awesome.
yeah.
Um,
I'm a strong believer that you don't have to like go to college or university. Um, but I mean, it doesn't hurt. Like if you don't have any other option, then it's great. Like then it's really, really good. And I know for myself too, like if I didn't have this, I'd go to university. But
mhm.
now I found this, so I don't need to, at least not right now. um, but it's like, I guess development is a very good example of that. Like if you can show someone, hey, I've built this,
Yeah.
like you don't need education to, if you can do it. Like you don't have to have a degree for it. I'm definitely a strong believer of that.
Yeah, that's a good point. I always tell my students I will never give two students the same advice on what I think they should do after, because it always depends on the person. It really
Yep.
does. It depends on your interests. It depends on your skill set. It depends on
Yep.
what you want. It all kind
Yep.
of boils over to it's not an easy decision what you want to do, and I think
Right.
courses like this will help students kind of learn, maybe get
Yeah.
some more advice on what they'd want to do.
Yep.
So kind of all this culminating together, one big question I have is what what have you heard from teachers in schools that have implemented these courses or implemented extracurriculars? What are the results from your firsthand experience? How is attendance? How is learning? How like
Mm,
does learning benefit? Does attendance benefit? How
mm,
have you seen these courses and this platform kind of benefit
mm.
schools?
In general, very positive. Like almost all the teachers that we work with and like teachers we don't work with too, they are very positive to programs like this. If they've run it themselves or if they've heard it from others, because yeah, it it has definitely shown an increase in stuff like attendance, but also things like grade. I think that those kind of correlates together. Like if you go to school more, then it makes sense that your grade goes up too. So those two often correlate. But also in general, just being more excited about going to school. Um, yeah, almost all teachers that I've spoken to are really, really positive to programs like this because they see how their kids react to it, and they know how interested their kids are in the esports industry and just being a part of it. So yeah, I'd say in general it's very, very positive, and it's amazing hearing the stories from the teachers as well. Just from the students who would normally just sit in the back of the class with like their hood on, just never listening.
Mm-hmm.
But when the teachers start asking stuff like something connected to any game, like they would actually take off their hood and they would lean forward and actually listen and interact with the teacher. Uh, like those kind of stories where, yeah, it just changes the entire mindset of the students just because they're interested. And I think that makes sense. Like if you're not interested in something, then yeah, there's not really a reason for you to do it. So I think it's very important that more schools integrate stuff like this. And this is not for all students. Like definitely, some
Mm-hmm.
enjoy school anyways, and I think that's really good too. But for those who doesn't, then this is very, very important. And it is proven to be a lot of kids that aren't that excited about school.
Yeah, I'm a big advocate for you should do whatever you're interested in, whatever makes you happy, and
Yep.
these kind of programs and these kind of courses just give students an opportunity to do whatever they're interested in, whatever makes them happy. Like one thing I
Yep.
do in resource room a lot is when I need to get a writing sample from a student for something to do with writing, I tell them write however many sentences on whatever you want to write about, and I always find it so interesting to read what they say. Like, I'll find it interesting to see students that talk about video games or talk about Star Wars or talk about sports.
Mm.
And I think it's just important for people to all do what they are interested in and what they want to do. Like, if you're into sports, you can still be into video games. You can still be into esports. You
Yep.
can still be into Star Wars. You can still be into um, math. You can still
Mm.
just whatever interests you have. I think it's important for students and schools to kind of push that. Try it out.
Yep.
Uh, so
Yep.
with how positive this is, and I think it's. I told you before we started the interview. I think this sounds like one of the coolest things ever. Very informally, I think it sounds like one of the coolest things ever. Um,
Yep.
if a teacher or an administrator kind of saw this and said,
Mm.
I want to push my school to get something like this or get this, get
Mm.
Gameplan. How do you think they could go about doing that with all the barriers that would probably be present to trying to get this started? What do you think the best
Mm.
course of action is?
Yep. Um, Talk to, I guess, the right person in the school. Find the right person who can help you implement it, and focus on the benefits and focus on the benefit for the students. But also, I guess, find out what's important for your school and what is important for your administration or the school district. Like, is it increasing attendance or is it increasing grades? And like knowing what's important for your school in general. And I think a lot of the schools have similar I don't want to say issues, but challenges. A lot of schools have similar challenges. So, like, find out what's important for your school and kind of find a solution to that through the esports program, which I think is in 99% it's possible.
Yeah, I think that's good advice. I mean, it always comes down to you gotta know how to go about it, know how to
Yeah.
try to get it done. So
Yep.
I think that's a lot of it. I think that
Mm.
Minecraft partnership, Unreal Engine, those are
Mm.
all getting students started in middle school with that Minecraft partnership. I think that's awesome. Unreal Engine, that's definitely not the easiest platform to use. I mean that takes a lot of skills for those students, and the fact that a lot of it's taught through game plan and self-taught, I mean,
Mm.
that's pretty that's pretty impressive. It's just kind of a way for them to have an imagination and express it.
Yep. Yeah.
Um,
I guess with Unreal Engine 2, we provide a lot of like the resources for them to get through it.
mhm.
I think one important thing to know with like our platform in general is that it's a tool for the teachers, so that they would take it into the class and help them deliver the education. That's normally how we work with our schools as well, like building a tool for the teachers. And it's actually a funny story about that, because when we started, when I say we, I don't mean we, but like, you know what I mean. But yeah, we wanted to build a platform that was so good that we could replace teachers, and figured out quite quickly that that does not work. That's not the solution. And then very quickly changed to like building something that will help the teachers, and yeah, just really make it easier for them teaching all of these subjects. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how this grows, and game plan grows, and things like game plan and extracurricular esports in schools. I compare it to, there's a lot of colleges have a sports marketing major where
Mm,
they get like internships doing stuff with the NFL or
mm,
stuff like that. I think esports, you're going to start seeing business of esports and esports marketing majors come around more and more. I've already heard of some, and
yep.
I think that stuff like this is very, it gives skills for the 21st century learner and 21st century worker.
Mm,
I think that's important. So, do you have anything
I
else that
agree.
you'd like to cover?
Um, Not that I can think of. No, I think we covered a lot and also very important topics. So yeah,
Yes.
I think it was good.
Yeah,
Yep.
so thank you a lot for coming on. This
Thank
was
you.
a
I
lot of
think.
fun. It was really interesting, and I'm looking forward to see how it comes out. And I'm looking forward.
Yep.
I'm definitely going to be following game plan and see how see what else you guys get. I mean, I'm a Microsoft and Minecraft partnership. That's that's huge, and
Mhm.
that might only be the start.
Right. Yep. It's the beginning of a very interesting journey, and yeah, yeah, it's gonna be good.
All right. Well, thank you a lot, Boas. I
Thank
hope
you.
you have a good
Thank you.
rest of your day, and I really appreciate you taking the time.
Likewise, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.